All right, let's get back to the guys on the phone tonight. Our friend Wilbur Allen is here. Bill Forte is here. And Eric is here as well. Eric Hartwig is here as well. Guys, thank you so much for giving up your night and being here with us.
You're welcome. A pleasure.
Not a problem.
You know, one thing that was kind of mentioned in the chat room, and I'm just going to go ahead and chime in a little bit on it, is, and Wilbur, I really agree with you with the back engineering, and Eric, the same with you. I think a lot of things, I think there's the potential, a lot of things that we have today was back engineered from things from a long time ago. It doesn't mean that the human research wasn't put into it and the human creativity, but just getting that idea, seeing something, and being able to back engineer it is what it's all about.
And if you ask the inventors, they'll be offended, and they will say for sure, guaranteed, that there was no alien technology used.
Oh, they'll say that to cover their butt, but the realities are it was alien technology in use.
And what that could mean, Wilbur, if I'm not taken from how you're looking at it, is it could have been something that somebody had an opportunity to see, an integrated circuit or a different part or a design or something, an engineering drawing, or actually having something very similar in their hand. Doesn't mean that it was that thing that became it, but it laid the roadmap for somebody to build it.
Exactly is the case, but we won't know. We never know, because even if you look at how patents, trademarks, and copyright are protected, a lot of that technology that's associated to what we have now is secret.
Yep.
Yeah, very true. One thing
I think.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, I think it just takes the right intelligence agent. If you had a really good, Philip Corso claims to be this person, but I'm not so sure looking at his book and stuff. It could be valid, could be telling the truth, but it just takes the right intelligence agent to transfer the ideas, the knowledge that these technologies exist into industry, very low-key, to get them working on things that they have no idea what the source is.
In my opinion, the general public is naive, but at the same time, they want to see tangible, physical evidence. I think until disclosure actually happens, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to be skeptical.
You can show them the facts, and they still won't believe it. So, I'll agree with that to an extent, but most people are just generally stuck on stupid.
Well, you know what's funny? Because when I submitted that video of that circular thing that I got in the sky, I was getting all kinds of comments that it was a Chinese lantern, space. Even MUFON said that it could have been space junk, which I actually found laughable. So unless you get something up and close, even if you got an ET, a gray, they're going to still see it's photoshopped or something was done to manipulate the way it looks. So, it's very tough to actually get this evidence out there and present it where people, it's like this. You have someone see an image of, say, Virgin Mary on a tree. It's a miracle. But when it comes to a UFO, you still have a lot of people who are skeptical.
Well, hold that thought, because you're getting samples and other people are getting samples, and I'm getting samples, and all the samples are the same. Now, I take everyone's samples, and I put them in one folder, and I say, hey, look, here's Joe's sample, here's Fred's sample, here's Sally's sample, here's Wilma's sample. Everything looks the same. Everyone's sample is from a different location of the world. That says to me that technology is here. That says to me that we are not making this up. That says to me that if that person's camera is getting it, and that person's camera is getting it, and my camera is getting it, and your cameras are getting it, that those objects are here. Now,
I totally agree.
Do we believe the politician that says, oh, no, they're not? Or do you believe the data coming off your camera, the data coming off my camera? I believe my camera more than anything.
But you know what? It's a disservice when you have a lot of people, the hoaxers, who are discrediting and putting out disinformation about what we're doing. And Wilbur, I take this very seriously. I'm sure, like you.
I had somebody post, there are lots of Wilbur Allens in the United States, a few of them have police records. Now, you know, I'm getting comments about my police record, and I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. I never had a police record before. So, you know, I mean, there's some misinformation associated with things here. And people look for anything and everything to discredit you. When I put my samples out in 2002, before I went with the D4 and D4S Nikons, I was using film, and I got these green objects. I had people tell me the green objects that I got were lens flares. Now, wait a minute. Those green objects just happen to match Apollo 7, Apollo 11, Apollo 14, Apollo 17, a ton of Apollo moon missions that did submit mission files which included photographic evidence which substantiate without a doubt that the anomalies that we photograph here on Earth were initially documented on the moon and en route to the moon. So NASA knows this. And I'm looking at all of NASA's files, and all of NASA's files are consistent with what we're getting. So what does that say?
No,
Go ahead, Pat.
No, I mean, I agree with you. Again, it's just, I don't know. I think what it all kind of comes back to is when you've been covering things up, when the government, whoever they are, whoever we want to call them, when they've been covering it up for such a long time, to come out and just say, well, we've been lying all along, the implications of that are just are going to be crazy.
Pandora's box.
It's there now, but look at all the evidence. Now, let's go beyond photographic evidence. Let's look at some of the Masonic writings and what the Masons are talking about, especially the Masons that built Washington, D.C., and the Masons that made contact with luminous entities, according to the writings. So what were those luminous entities that they made contact with? So we know automatically aliens are here. We know they've been here. The hieroglyphics on the Egyptian pyramids indicate they've been here. Cave drawings from the caveman days indicate they've been here. So, wait a minute, we've got all this indication that they're here, but the government says, wait a minute, no, it's not real, and it doesn't exist.
What about like some texts like the Bible that have Ezekiel, for example? Do you think that was some type of a witness account?
The Bible is a story of aliens. Bottom line, everything associated to everything that's written basically says aliens. Star of Bethlehem. Wait a minute. How does a star follow you if it's not a mothership or a battle cruiser or something, a scout ship? All of the samples that they describe, the lights in the sky, the chariots of fire, it's all consistent with what we're getting on high-definition video. All of it.
So you subscribe to the ancient alien, the ancient astronaut theory?
No, I am not subscribing to any of that. I'm looking at the physical data that I was able to see for myself. And for myself to see cave drawings in France, which show extraterrestrial objects, to see paintings on frescoes which show luminous objects and spheres, it shows everything that's taking place today took place in the beginning of time. It is still taking place. And that we're not accepting the realities of the matter, and the realities of the matter are aliens have been here, have always been here, and they have been here way before we came. And they may have placed us here.
Wilbur, what do you think their agenda could be? I mean, you said you had contact when you were young, and you had quite a bit. Did they ever communicate to you any kind of message?
No, it was more technological upgrades, because everything I was able to do photographically was non-existent until digital came out back in those days, and I created a chemistry technology which used low-voltage radiation to process film, and the film that I was able to generate that was processed in radioactive chemistry looked like high-definition digital. And this is, we're talking 1990s, 1980s. Microwave has been in existence since 1960, 1950 in terms of microwave ovens, and that's what I use to process my film, microwave.
A question for you guys, and we'll post it to all of you because somebody sent a question. It says, the evidence which is evidence of UFOs on camera is not evidence of UFOs, of aliens. So to simply state there's evidence of aliens is simply not true.
Well, first, you have to assume that person is implying that, okay, then if they're not aliens, then what are they?
Okay.
That's rhetorical. That's absolutely a mindless statement because, first of all, when you look at these objects that we photograph and you clearly see that this is a level of technology that's way beyond us, how can you assume that it's us?
Well, when I post my videos on YouTube, I will just say that I'm careful to say that it's an unknown craft. I'm not saying they're aliens, but to be honest, that's exactly what my definition of it is: unknown.
Alien,
do I believe?
Unknown. What is unknown? It's alien.
Well, you know what it is. I can't come up with an explanation to know exactly what that is.
They're trying to put the spin on it. You know, you could have the proof of evidence, the proof of all mothers, and there'll still be some moron out there questioning the integrity and the validity of the sample because they're stuck on stupid. That was an absolutely stupid question, in my opinion, to make that statement. You know, I mean, first of all, they're assuming that whatever we're photographing already exists in our level, our repertoire of technology, which it is not. So if it is not in our level of technology, then where does it come from? It's not military, because military is still our level of technology. It's not man-made. If it's not man-made, then what is it?
You know what? Whenever somebody throws negativity at me, like, you're absolutely right when you say that. But whenever somebody takes negativity, what I do, I have even more incentive to get something on my camera, to look carefully and put it out there and let people, you know what I mean? It just gets you the drive.
I've got 80,000 samples. And I can show a moron every one of those 80,000 samples. And at the end of the 80,000 sample, he will still be an idiot.
Well, you know that there's some people that will never, ever be convinced. You know that.
No matter. It's just, you know, they're stuck on the word of the Bible, which is not consistent either.
You know, with all the research, Wilbur, that you're doing with the craft, finding the craft, have you seen? I mean, you're in the ufology game. I mean, you know a lot of people. You've been around this. You experienced it at a young age. You know, the one thing I think that probably is one of the big misnomers. Of course, there's a lot of pictures that you're capturing. You're capturing tens of thousands of pictures. Bill and Eric, you are too. I mean, it's amazing what you guys are picking up. Have you ever seen, Wilbur, an actual picture of an alien? Have you ever, or of an extraterrestrial? I know you had an encounter. Have you ever had anybody bring anything like that to you?
Well, you know, I've had a lot of people show me a lot of things, and if you really look at it closely, it's fake. Because, I mean, there's just the science behind, you know, the forensics of presenting a sample, the lighting associated to it. There's 3D CGI technology that's so advanced that I can generate a 3D person and put that 3D person in a photograph with real people, and you would not be able to pick them out.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's that advanced. So, and I see a lot of stuff on YouTube that is absolutely fake. Maya-type technology generated in a 3D algorithm that generates extraordinary visual effects. And then they get millions of hits, and people believe this crap, and they believe the crap that they see that's fake, and then they take evidence like what we get that is 100% real, and then they say, oh, it's fake. Oh, it's a shooting star. Oh, it's a meteor. Now, wait a minute. How do you make those claims? First of all, if you're not technologically qualified to do so, but yet they'll do that.
I have to agree.
Well,
you know,
did you happen to see? Have you seen that? It's been around for years now. There's a video of a saucer. It seems to be coming in over a river, and then it does a couple loop-de-loops and takes off, and it's from Italy. Have you ever seen that?
I saw some footage that came from Germany, and what it showed was what looked like two F-14s following a disc.
I've seen that.
Now, you've seen that. Now, my problem is this. When the F-14s turn, both left wings are missing on the jet in the turn. That's a physical impossibility. So that right there said to me that is computer generated, and it was badly computer generated. But somebody not trained would look at it and say, "Oh, wow, Jet's chasing a UFO," even though it's fake. You know, it's how it's presented. It's who looks at the information, and the people that look at it, they're so gullible, and they believe the crap that's out there. They believe all the spacecraft that we're supposed to get are going to look like Star Wars type ships, or look like the saucer from the day the Earth stood still. They believe it's all going to look like that because that's how Hollywood has fed it to us. They fed this crap. And the realities are it's far from that. I'm getting samples that aren't even metal at all. They're all energy.
Yeah. And we can be going through YouTube, and we can be looking at a real alien craft and actually have no idea. We could think it looks too good to be true. I think there's a few cases that I had to
It looks too good to be true, and that indeed may be the case. But see, that's where the fakers and the hoaxers came in and blew everything for us, because it makes our job that much more difficult. I've got samples that are profound, but the fake stuff makes my stuff look not plausible at all.
Yeah. What do you think this X-37 is, Wilbur? I mean, that as I mentioned, a lot of when we lost you for a little bit before we had to reconnect. The media, the NASA, everybody denied this thing a year or two ago of it even existing. Well, what's that? What are you talking about?
The miniature robotic space shuttle that they built?
Yeah, now we find out it's been buzzing around for 2+ years.
Oh, yeah, it's totally autonomous. It's got flight autonomy associated to it that, you know, the issues they were having with putting humans in space were related to radiation and all of those things. That completely is ruled out with that technology because it's autonomous. It basically is a drone. It's a robot that they have in space. And it's capable of staying up there for over a year without refueling.
Yeah, it was up there for almost 2 years.
Yes, without refueling.
What do you think it was doing up there? Just flying around to see if it could survive, or do you think it was even...
Well, look at the advancements with technology, and, you know, I mean, if I had something in orbit like that, and I had the type of technology photographically that I have on board that thing, and I'm rotating the Earth for 2-3 years, don't think that I won't get every possible shot of everything that I could possibly get in doing that orbit. I'll shoot everything. So they basically, in my opinion, I think what they did was generated a high dimension, high def representation of Earth. They duplicated it, made a scan of Earth so that they have this data, and they have a massive amount of data that they can tell you anything about this planet, at least based on what they can scan.
A question that came in for you guys, especially for you, Bill and Eric and Wilbur, with the winter months coming up, of course, Eric and Bill are letting their cameras run. Are you guys going to enclose your cameras or anything? And how about you, Wilbur? What do you do when it's, well, if it's snowing out, it's kind of tough. You can't see through the snow.
Yeah, you don't do, but the different cameras are designed for different applications. And the D4 and the D4S and the D3S were designed with spacecraft applications in mind. And I know there are limits to what you can do with your camera before it starts being subjected to the stress of the weather. I wouldn't put my camera out in sub-zero weather, but what I would do is I would set it up so that at least the camera would be somewhat warm. The camera would be, it would be operational, not freezing, without being subjected to the cold weather. You don't ever want to leave your gear out in the cold.
We're looking at different options. Bill just posted a picture of the boxes he made in the chat room. Our cameras are not particularly waterproof cameras. They need a little bit of help in that. And so Bill built some really nice wooden boxes to put his in. I know metal enclosures are also built just for that purpose, so you can get on eBay. I'm kind of playing it by ear. I don't plan on putting my cameras outside during inclement weather anyway, because you can't really see the sky.
Good, nothing to shoot.
And it wouldn't be a clear night.
Not worth it.
Yeah,
you know,
I don't want to risk it.
I'm not using wire technology. I went wireless and I get the telemetry from the cameras to my computer, so it's not like, I worry about wires or anything like that, and I can stick my cameras in remote locations and get the telemetry from the cameras. So you have to think about, okay, there's the cost associated to the technology, and then there's the cost associated to capturing the event, and then you draw the line. I, for one, don't go out in the rain, and I won't go out in the cold with my cameras, not unless it really is, if the client's got money for it. Unless they have money, my stuff stays in the box. It's too expensive.
Yeah, I'm sure you had a rough time last Saturday in Jersey.
Oh, man, it was raining, and, it wasn't like I was taking my camera out anyway because I keep it in the Pelican. But it's like, if there's those conditions where, first of all, in the rain, you have obscured visibility, and you try to photograph something in the rain, it's almost like taking a picture in water, which is an impossibility. And if you do get something, it's distorted by the water.
Yep.
So it's not feasible. It's not logical to take, well, unless the UFOs are out there during a lightning storm or in the storm and you just happen to capture it, then it just wouldn't be something that would be normally done. And I don't think there's any technology in the cameras used by the government that are enclosed in those containers. They're really not designed for outdoors either, but they're in such environments that they're somewhat maintainable and they won't freeze. They must have some kind of heater associated to it. You have to look
in terms of just the cold itself, and it can be a humid cold, which could be damaging.
That goes inside your camera. You got to store your gear in a almost laboratory-like environment. My camera is stored in Ziploc with silica bags in it. So
I do that too.
You have to do that. It's not like people think, and I'm really taken away by most people who have their cameras and they're taking their lenses off outside. They change the lens off outside with the wind blowing. Don't they wonder about the particles that's blowing inside there and what sticks to the CCD? So they just don't think logically. I don't think like that. I think more scientific, and in the sense that I try to keep everything sterile, and the better sample it comes from something that was generated from sterile equipment, and that's what I try to do.
Pat, it's okay if I ask Wilbur a quick question about his cameras?
What was that, Bill?
Wilbur,
Go ahead.
Wilbur, I know that you're using the Nikon D4S, you said?
Yes.
That's similar to what they're using in the International Space Station, correct?
No, they're using a D3S.
Wow.
Theirs is only 51,000 ISO.
Now, I got a question. For the average person, as an amateur who's just starting out, what kind of equipment would you recommend they look into?
Well, and I'll be honest, it would be a $10,000 mistake for an amateur to go out and buy D4 and D4S because, first of all, those cameras are designed for people who understand photography, like myself and you, and other people who consider themselves professionals. But for an amateur to go out and buy a D4 is like me giving my 3-year-old nephew an AK-47 loaded.
Well, Wilbur, you're in Washington. That's okay.
Well, you still don't want to give a 3-year-old an AK-47. But you know what I mean? It's like, it's mindless. And I've had people, after I told them and showed them the samples that I got, especially from Uncovering Aliens and Twisted Believers, showed them the samples generated from the D4, and they went out and bought these D4s, and then you see the D4s on sale for half the price because they couldn't use it.
Right.
Yeah. Another thing I'm going to try and playing it by ear.
Buy the camera. A person that doesn't do it, it's like taking acid, I guess. I don't know.
What was your question, Eric?
I'm just saying we're going to play it by ear with the cold weather. There's a YouTube video that with a guy showing you how to make a lens warmer out of a series of large capacitors hooked up to a 12-volt energy source to warm your lens. It wraps around your lens and warms the lens.
From hot to cold. See, if your camera is cold and you bring it into a hot environment, it's going to sweat because condensation builds up on it. What you want to do is you want to build up and build down to bringing your camera into two different environments. It's like going through when you go into scuba diving and you go into deep depth, you have to go into a hyperbolic chamber to bring your levels of gases down that are associated with deep sea diving. It's the same thing associated to photography. If you're going to go from cold to hot or from hot to cold, you have to transitionally bring your camera into it. If not, it'll condense in the water that's built in, that's already inside the camera, will condense on the PCD.
Yep, then all your lenses are fogged up.
Everything is screwed. The picture's screwed. Everything is screwed to an extent.
Yep.
Right.
That, until you use video noise reduction, and video noise reduction like Forest Effects BCC technology eliminates all of that.
And another option has been suggested to us is that we could mount a computer fan inside the body of our camera.
Well, that you see, there you have a problem because I'm recording, and the last thing I want to hear is the hum of a fan.
Well, we don't have audio on our cameras.
We don't have audio on the camera,
I'm recording audio, and I'm getting audio associated to my events, which indicate that the object's flying by can't be shooting stars because there's a mechanical sound associated
Yes,
with it.
we're looking into that too to get some type of mic.
I completely
the audio is very important. I'm glad to hear you're doing audio.
Stars. Audio is a must in documenting UFOs.
Have you picked up a lot of unique audio things, Wilbur? Have you picked up a lot of signatures?
Dude, I have got sounds that are non-identifiable. They're just no one. I've sent samples to. They're like, I don't know what the hell that is, and these are experts.
Have you tried a parabolic directional microphone?
The D4 and the D4S have 7.1 DTS surround sound built into them, so the microphones that are built into these cameras, if an object flies from frame left and goes to frame right, I've got it in a 3D 7.1 surround sound steer. It is extraordinary technology. It's already built into the camera. It's 48 hertz. It's a 48 hertz audio recorder, not 44, not MP3. It's a 48 hertz audio recorder.
That's an amazing. That's an amazing camera system you have, Wilbur. I've looked into those.
It's strictly NASA grade technology, and it is designed for what I'm doing with it: getting UFOs, spacecraft, extraterrestrial anomalies, going outer atmosphere.
Yeah.
But I'm using it on Earth. and getting the same things NASA is getting in space.
Yeah, well, it's amazing. You know, and the one thing I find so interesting, and I see what you guys think on this, we got to take a commercial break, too, in a minute to help pay the light bill here. But, like you mentioned, Wilbur, about Dr. Edgar Mitchell, it's interesting. Here's somebody that, his background is unbelievable. He comes out and talks about these things. He talks about what he's seen, and yet there's still people that don't believe.
Well, I was working on my PhD, and the school that I was at refused to believe my research, and they emphatically told me that nobody would confirm it. Nobody. Now, here comes Edgar Mitchell, Buzz Aldrin, and Neil Armstrong that confirmed it. So I guess they're not necessarily what one would consider nobody, but it was indeed confirmed. So you can't tell me, and that's a problem with most people. Most people want to be able to say what you can and cannot do. And that if you look at it, if anything's a sin, that's a sin. To tell a person what they can and cannot do, because it'll backfire in your face.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Fringe Radio Show. Our guests tonight, Wilbur Allen, Bill Forte, and Eric Hartwig. I want to thank all three of you for giving up some time on Saturday night to talk about this subject. Amazing stuff, guys.
Thank you.
Wilbur, I got a question for you. Actually, I'm going to steal one of Bill's, but what's your thoughts about that object at the bottom of the Baltic Sea? That looks like
I've been doing a lot of research on that, and it's interesting. They've been trying to send crews down there to get a closer look, and all of the crews that go down there, their equipment malfunctions the minute they get within 20, 30 feet of this object. So
how deep is it, Wilbur?
It's huge. It's about as a little bit larger than a jumbo jet, and it has two objects associated to it. But what's interesting is when that thing entered into the ocean, it still had enough G-force and velocity associated to it to put a groove in the bottom of the ocean.
A lot of people are saying that it's some type of stone structure.
Well, it would be, if it was a structure, then how did the structure leave a groove as it came to rest?
How deep is it? The depth?
It's pretty deep. It's about 300 feet down, from what I understand. But the fact of the matter is that everything that they send down there to go close to it, electronics that is, stops working.
So you think it's giving off some type of a power source that's interrupting?
But EM, it's setting off an EM. Whatever it is, it does not want to be bothered.
Wow.
Interesting. Very interesting.
A lot of that is here. I mean, we have to look at the realities that, you know, there are extraterrestrial bases on Earth. They're here.
Where do you think? Could they be in the oceans and underground? What do you think is your best guess?
From what I see and from what I'm documenting, if these things have the ability to just appear out of nowhere, they can go anywhere they like.
But does that kind of indicate a dimensional?
They have the ability to go between matter, exactly. They are definitely interdimensional.
A question for you that our group up at the University of Utah writes in. We got a big clan of engineering students that listens to us every Saturday night, and we want to thank you for their participation. Tracy writes in and says, Mr. Allen, do you think that ETs, the definition of ET, do you believe that they could actually be, let's say, humans, but from the future and have come back through time?
That's a very strong possibility. But then there's the other possibility that they may indeed be extraterrestrial.
Right.
There's yin and yang.
Yeah. Interesting subject, guys. It's amazing. Wilbur, what are you working on now? I follow your work quite often. What's going on? What's cooking in the pot for you?
Well, you know, I just stay relative and true to the course, and I've been diligent in what I do, and with diligence comes results, and the results are, without a doubt, ET, and I'm getting them 7 blocks from the White House, and the White House says no. So I think that I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
Do you got anything going on with the unsealed alien files?
John B. is working on that. You know, that's John B.'s thing, John B. Wells, and I know I'm in the mix, but, you know, like you guys will find out, especially when they start contacting you for your footage, you'll be the last person. You're the first person they want, but the last person in the mix in terms of knowing what's going on.
And is Jose Escamilla making a movie with your footage in it?
Jose and I are working on it, and what was interesting is those people who trashed Jose, and it's going back to film technology and 24 frames per second, you know, you have to look at the differences in motion picture technology and the higher frame rates. I started noticing 24 and 50 frames that there were echoes associated to whatever I photographed, so I stopped using 24 and 50 frames. I went with 30 and 60, and those echoes stopped. So, you know, there are things you want to do, and there's things you don't want to do when you start filming, especially anomalous objects. And a rod filmed at 24 frames per second is going to look like something vibrating. But I'm getting them at 60 frames per second, and they look exactly like what Jose was getting on 24 frames. So it dispels of all of those people who trashed Jose's claim that whatever these objects are not natural, and they're not natural at all, at least based on what I was getting in video.
Well, do you agree with his theory that maybe that these snake-like objects, or he calls it skyfishing, but they could be actually live entities?
Well, I had a close encounter in Baltimore on August the 3rd, 2008, with this orange and blue sphere that landed in front of me and 18 people, and I started taking pictures of it. In the photographs is what looks like a flying snake. It has the characteristics of a snake, except it has wings, and it was flying towards the spheres. Wow. So, in my opinion, those rods could possibly be, and there is a very strong possibility that they are extraterrestrial.
I'm posting that picture in chat, by the way.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
They're not normal. It's not normal technology. It's not normal life form, because I've got people sending me pictures of rods in 18-degree weather. Now, wait a minute. Insects can't survive in 18-degree weather. Insects can't swim underwater, and they're getting rods underwater.
Do you think they're, well, an energy of some sort, Wilbur?
A life form. It's some kind of life form. It's, NASA has confirmed the realities of non-corporeal entities, meaning life without physical body, and it does indeed exist. What one would interpret as a spirit could be non-corporeal. And what I encountered at the U.S. Capitol building July 16, 2002 was non-corporeal. So I've got samples of that. So it is a very strong possibility that whatever these objects are, they're not physical in the sense like we think of physical forms of life, but indeed what would be considered as a non-physical life form, non-corporeal.
What I find curious is obviously, if you're seeing this and others are seeing this, like myself and Eric, why doesn't the government, like you see a jet, follow one of these rods where they just disappear to see if they see anything, or is it just too high up there and too quick?
It's probably too quick because it's something that you would have to focus on, but based on the samples I've got and based on samples Melvin Harris in Mount Vernon, New York, and my partner Robert Stanley, who's documented all of this research, and I look at all of these folks and all of the data that they accumulated, and all information says the same thing, but the government says no. They know about these.
How is Robert doing? I got to get him back on. I had him on our late night show a year ago, Wilbur, and he was so tired.
Robert's kicking butt because he's getting all the evidence. All it takes is a person to go and do some research, and he gets all this research. All the research substantiates without a doubt, based on all the physical evidence starting from the days of Columbus, or even sooner than that aliens are here.
Yeah. What's your take? A question I've got for you. What's your take on Stanton Friedman talks about? Well, a lot of people do, but the Foo Fighters, these beams of energy that were.
That's what I photographed. That's the objects that were documented by Apollo 7 and Apollo 11. The objects that I photographed at the U.S. Capitol building were luminous spheres. They did not have what I would consider metallic qualities associated to them. They were just these balls of energy, and they were dripping smaller balls of energy from them. And they're 100% consistent with what was imaged in Germany during World War II by B.C. Lumsden of the RAF, in which his squadron of bombers en route to Germany to do this bomb run were buzzed by a green and orange sphere. And now the green and orange sphere is 100% consistent with the green sphere that buzzed Apollo 7 and Apollo 11, and it's 100% consistent with the green sphere that I photographed at the U.S. Capitol building. And since we're talking film-based samples, I took all of these film-based samples and put them all in one folder, and look what we have. We have consistency. So what it indicates is that whatever these objects are, they're not lens flare, and if they imaged them outside the command module of Apollo 11, then indeed they were an extraterrestrial spacecraft.
I think that the Foo Fighters, the orbs, are the spheres are partially manifested, partially materialized UFOs. They got 1 foot in both dimensions.
They're moving so fast. You may see what looks like a ball, but it may be a disc flipping, and it flips so fast. If you look at a fan, for example, there's a point where you don't see the blades at all. It's moving so fast, and it forms this illusion of a solid object. And that's what these objects are doing. They're moving so fast that the illusion that we see is something other than what it is. And they're all energy-based. It's not metallic. It's not like what we would want to believe a UFO is supposed to look like. None of my samples even have the characteristics of the craft that they were showing people in the 50s, which a lot of it, in my opinion, was fake.
Have you been, Wilbur, doing any photographing like with the moon at all?
I started doing lunar scans. I got a 1,000 millimeter reflector lens. I need to get actually more because it doesn't really do it that much justice. But the problems are when you start going with these higher focal lenses, they just really, though your eye may see it when you look through it a little little eyepiece to look at whatever the objects are. When you try to photograph it, the light level is just ridiculously low, so you're not going to get the kind of shutter speed that you would get if you had a 1.4 or 1.8 or a 2.8 type lens that are fully open and allow you to gather more light. So these reflectors require a little bit more exposure, but without a doubt, most of the stuff that I'm getting, that I got starting last night shooting the moon, was interesting, and I would have to look into it further. But yes, I'm focusing more at the moon, without a doubt.
A lot of stuff there. I mean, a lot of probes and a lot of activities happening again.
All of the samples that NASA has of unidentified flying objects, if you look at NASA's lunar mission files, the videos that they have match what I'm getting on Earth. Match.
Well, Wilbur, what area of the sky are you focused on, so that maybe me and Eric could put a camera to that direction?
Well, it's kind of weird because I do everything the same every night. I sit my camera straight, shooting 90 degrees straight up, and the left side of the frame is north, right side of the frame is right. So it's a fixed position constantly. I never change, never deviate. So it's like going fishing in the same fishing hole on a daily basis. And on a daily
we do the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Now, if there are meteors and shooting stars and meteors and shooting stars at random, how do I get that much frequency that's 100% consistent?
Exactly. Exactly.
So we have a problem here.
Yep.
And we're being visited.
Wilbur, I got to wrap it up. This 2 hours went way too quick. Can we get you back on after the first of the year again?
Well, hopefully, yes. We'll try to do it with a landline and not on Verizon.
When you come on next time, we'll be heard through WRMI, all different parts of the world through shortwave radio, and we'll get everybody's opinion from different countries, different continents.
Well, yeah, you want the opinions of others because that's what it's about. And again, that's what I talk about, showing consistency in my research. You've got to go to my website, ufodc.com. There are 21 chapters, 80,000 samples of forensic proof that aliens are here, without a doubt.
I'm also going to post his YouTube page in the Inception chat room.
It's amazing, and my friend Bill will back me up, Wilbur. I talk about you all the time and what you're doing out there, and I appreciate all the effort and time. And again, it was an honor to have you on, and thank you so much for giving me a couple hours this Saturday night.
Thanks for having me. Sorry for little delays and interruptions, but sometimes things happen.
Yeah, them damn aliens,
Wilbur, I'll be in touch.
Take care, guys.
Take care, my friend.
All right, thanks, Wilbur.
Take care.
Bye.